Hey everyone, my name is Janelle Robson again. This is my case study on Truman Elementary School. I'm just going to go ahead and jump right into it with you. I have several things that I wanted to note that I was aware of as I started this case study. One, that we're a pre-K through 8 building. We're the largest K-8 building out of 4 in our area, anywhere from 500 to 700 students. Within that, our student demographics show 15% free and reduced lunch and about 5% ESOL, primarily Spanish. I am a new principal to the building within 2 years. I was hired from outside the building. And I am aware that our reading instruction and our reading scores on our standardized tests seem to be dropping, as well as just low in general. And there were observations that compared, the observations that I made and the reading specialist made were compared to research. I am aware that reading achievement is our targeted area. The standardized tests support a concern in our reading instruction. In fact, our parents are starting to begin to notice and comment negatively towards our reading curriculum. In fact, I am aware that PTO has made a request for me to address those concerns at the next meeting. A couple other things that I know is that I have gathered information through a district reading supervisor, and it has been confirmed. And the specialist has found kind of the same thing that I had found as the principal. There is a state grant available to address these concerns, but we're going to have to show need for that. And I, as the principal, must organize and find support for the grant. Because again, we are showing in our data negative scoring in reading. Here's a couple of things that I was wanting to know a little bit more about. What's the climate of my building? Is there a leadership team in place already? Are other schools in this district scoring low, or how are they scoring? Do we have professional development available, and what types? I was curious. I saw the data in the case study, but how is that data collected, and are our teachers getting an opportunity to really dissect that data and get into it? What efforts are my teachers actually making towards reading achievement? Are there language barriers? What kind of support are we offering for those 5% of our students and our 15% of our students? I was also very curious to see if we had any grant writers on our staff, as well as whether or not these summative results actually match the formative and the interval assessment results. I felt like I also needed to know what PTO's position is. I'm not sure where their concern is coming from, or if the data had not been shared appropriately with them, or whatnot, but I was curious about what PTO's position is. I myself was really wanting to know what kind of reading curriculum they were even using, and whether or not that was being mapped as well as integrated with other subjects. There's a couple other things that I really wanted to know before I kind of came up with a solution or a resolution to the problem was what hurdles might I encounter with scheduling, as well as those demographics and how they're going to affect my results with my free and reduced and my language kiddos. Those are some of those things I thought, man, if I could really get to know some of these things, I might have a better idea of how to move forward into a resolution. I know ultimately what's best for my students is what we're going to address here in a couple of minutes. I know that takes precedence, but those were some things that I thought, hey, I would really like to know a little bit more on. So here's the problem in summary. Our school is seeing a decline in testing results in reading in our students over the past 3 years, not just from year to year, but from grade to grade. Stakeholders are starting to complain about the decline in reading scores to the extent of insisting that I speak at their meeting. There seems to be little to no individualized instruction, and most core reading is done from the basal. Most of that instruction is done in the same way for all of our students, regardless of their needs. There is little to no discussion of strategic reading instruction in that curriculum, and that a reading specialist has noticed those same concerns after visiting the school and has 2 recommended changes. So how do we go about that? What do we need to do, and where should our focus be? Here's my plan of action. I think it's about 18 steps, trying to be as thorough, but yet trying to be as thorough as possible to make sure I hit all of those things that I felt may come up and cause some problems later on. But anyway, step 1 of the plan is to organize a staff meeting. to address data, as well as ask for teachers' comments and concerns about how they feel the reading curriculum is going compared to that data. And make sure I cover all 3 years to show that, to show each piece to the teachers, to let them be aware of what it is that we're trying to accomplish here. I'd also make sure that I showed them where free and reduced lunch students and our language students fall in that data. Fifth step of my action plan would be to seek out 5 highly motivated data analyzers and curriculum mapping experts, with the addition of 1 grant writer to sit on a BLT. I'd want to build a leadership team that is really driven to help us find a solution to this problem. I'd then give goals to that BLT, instructing them to develop a mission and goals for reading outcomes. I would make sure that they would understand that it needed to be followed by research that supports those goals. And then they'd begin by making inquiries to other schools in our district about their reading basals and reading instruction. One of the other steps within my action plan would make sure that I provided professional development activities, as well as allow for peer-to-peer learning time during reading instruction within our building, as well as from building to building within our district. Now, all of this I would like to see done within a 2-month time span, and I know that's quick, but we're kind of in the part of the year, March, to be ready to submit this application for the grant by June 1. We'd need to be moving forward as quickly and as fluidly as possible without rushing. At that 2-month mark, I'd make sure I take time to visit with the PTO to address their concerns. The BLT then would have to report on their data analysis regarding our kiddos within our district and see if there's some needs there that maybe title, if we had title, other fundings available to help some of those kids, as well as cover PD and peer observation findings. We then schedule PLC time and in-service time at the ending of this year, as well as the beginning of next year, to go over possible curriculum activities that the BLT has found. I'd be making sure I discuss this with the superintendent and board. We'd be waiting for our grant approval. And of course, step 18 is encourage staff to look into reading PD opportunities over the summer, and to begin the next school year with hopefully some new reading initiatives. The strategies that I feel are important in here is building leadership teams. 1, building leadership teams, making my staff feel in a way responsible for the changes that should come and the changes that need to come. So by using a BLT, I'd be leaning hard on my staff to take the necessary steps to move our kiddos forward. Another strategy I'd make sure I would be using is communication. Communication with all of our stakeholders here, and be talking with other districts and other buildings within our district to figure out a curriculum that may work for us, as well as maybe some individualized instruction through MTSS. I'd be looking for fellow principals within my district to help me on some of that research. Those 3 strategies I feel are key in making a successful plan and a successful resolution in these low test scores. What's best for my kiddos? Oh my goodness. Well, first of all, identify the problem. Find a cohesive curriculum that's engaging and meets their needs. I would provide my teachers with adequate training, because it doesn't sound like they have that right now. Best for my kids is to set goals. I would need to use time and money to develop a system that creates individual plans of learning. We need to change our instructional methods. We need to make meaningful instruction to them. My kiddos need motivated and supported teachers. They need integrated technology. They need all of these pieces to be successful in reading and to keep that success going with them from grade to grade. So my resolution for this case study is to develop a school improvement plan, to provide professional development and PLC time for discussion. I would communicate with the superintendent, the board, the PTO. We'd complete that grant. I would say that part of my resolution needs to be implementing best practices, to continue BLTs, to find time for teams to analyze that data, to arrange a schedule that allows few breaks, if any at all, during that core instruction time. and then to make sure I'm gathering support from parents in the community, that everybody has buy-in to this change, to this plan to move our kiddos forward in reading instruction. And our data supports a need for that we need better reading instruction. As it says, the median score dropped from last year to this year by a -5. Within first grade to a second grade, deficit of a -8 2 years ago, when that class, same very class, only had a -3 in math. So our math instruction, while it's still a loss, not quite as much as reading. Where I did see some gains or growth is those fourth grade teachers, and I think using the data, I might be able to send our BLT our team into the fourth grade and seventh grade to again show why and where they're getting that gain. And of course, within the data, my reading specialist, the one who came in, said, "Hey, you're right. What you're seeing I'm seeing are the same thing. Let's make some changes." Through this whole process, oh my goodness, I was wondering, what can I do to help? What can I do to be an active role and not just put it on my teachers to figure this problem out, but what could I be doing to help them out? I was also thinking about the underlying issues that the building might be facing, whether that's lack of support from me, lack of support from the PTO, whether that's a culture within the school, maybe that's the mindset of my students. I couldn't help but consider whether the data was being adequately communicated with all stakeholders, including my teachers. I even wondered if the BASIL being used was recently adopted, or if it really does need to be replaced. A couple of things, again, that I was wondering was, what environment are we creating for these students? How does what we are doing within the classroom affect their reading? I'd also like to say that one of the things that was on my mind was that I needed to recognize the resources that were available to me. I was feeling pressure, for sure, from PTO to make some kind of change, and probably for them an immediate change, but for me maybe not so much. I was feeling, though, validation from my reading specialist that we need some modifications. And as the year was coming to an end, I felt pressure to keep moving forward with this and getting the next year prepped and ready to go. 3 things I think we need to consider from here on out is, what are other schools using? What's the time and cost to train our teachers to make all of this work? And would we even qualify for that grant? And if not, what other funds would be available to begin making adjustments in our reading curriculum? Communication and making sure I'm engaging families is a huge asset, as well as a huge piece of what we need to be moving forward to. So by meeting with PTO and gathering ideas and concerns, I felt like I could move forward there. By updating the board at meetings and then that being posted in the local newspaper, I felt the community would be aware of the changes. And by collaborating with the reading specialists and our staff and advocating within the community, I felt we were hitting a variety of areas of communication. Policy and laws are very important for me as a principal to think through, and by understanding and following the grant guidelines and criteria, I felt like I would be benefiting my students. By seeking experts and research, I too again felt like I'd be hitting the policies that were necessary to make sure we were getting all of those loose ends tied up, as well as exhibiting my understanding of the laws. And again, communicating using some of those PSEL standards. Ongoing dialogue is with my BLT time, my grade level teams, email messages within the staff, meeting and discussing with the board and the superintendent, as well as sending messages, letters to the parents in the community, meeting with my PTO and any other stakeholders to continue that dialogue that is essential. That was the case study as I saw it. I felt it was very important that I empowered my teachers to the highest level so that they would take some ownership in what we were doing, as well as making sure that the kids were the center of our attention, the center of our focus. And by doing some of these things within our action plan, as well as finding a resolution, I felt like we'd be able to move forward and maybe solve this problem of low reading data. Thanks for listening, guys. Good luck with yours. Enjoy.